In today's video, we're going to be discussing the 5 biggest Mirandus misconceptions. These are things that I've heard from the Discord, but also questions you guys have asked me here on YouTube. And there's also a little bit of misinformation that I want to squash in today's video as well. But before we get too far into the video, I first wanted to introduce myself if you haven't met me yet. So my name's Jake and I make content all about Mirandus. So if that's something you're interested in, then hit that subscribe button and I'd love to see you again. If not, then I guess thanks for clicking on the video. But without further ado, let's get into the content. Let's start this video off by talking about arguably the biggest misconception of them all, and that is that Mirandus will make good passive income. And although a lot of people would like to believe this is true, this, in my humble opinion, is not true at all. I don't think there's going to be anything passive about Mirandus. Now, there might be a couple buildings that'll allow you to go a few days without logging on, but for the most part, Michael McCarthy, the lead developer of the game, has talked about how he wants Mirandus to reward the players. He wants people to be in the game and play the game to earn anything. In fact, he's gone so far as to say that he wants to put a rule on buildings so that if the shop owner or someone with permissions doesn't come by the shop within 2 to 3 days, that it's going to remove that shop from the land deed for someone else to put their building down, which is crazy and so unlike almost any other crypto game out there right now. Not only that, but Michael McCarthy's also talked about he wants this to be a game, not an investment. So it wouldn't be fun if you could just put a bunch of money in something and maybe it would be fun to just watch your money grow. But that's not the idea behind this. He really wants people to play the game and enjoy the game, but also earn money while they play the game. But building mechanics aside, if you think about how new Materium is discovered and brought into the economy of Mirandus, it's by the adventurers, it's by the people who go out and find that Materium. Yeah, sure, shop owners will make Materium from those explorers and deed owners will make Materium from those shop owners, but the new influx of Materium is from the explorers, and you can't passively explore Mirandus. On top of that, McCarthy's really talked about how he wants this to be a game, not an investment. He wants Mirandus to be enhanced by the blockchain and not the other way around. In my opinion, that's why most other crypto games aren't doing very well right now. It's because they're not really fun to play. You just make money playing them. But that's a different topic for a whole other video. So now let's talk about misconception number 2, and that is that Mirandus will be like any other MMORPG. Although Mirandus will have a couple features that are similar to other MMOs, because, I mean, it is an MMO after all, it's going to be way different than the typical MMO template, and you know exactly what I'm talking about. There's like 5 popular MMOs. They're the exact same MMOs, they're just reskinned and renamed and rebranded as something different. In Mirandus, the buildings are actually going to be owned by players. Like, the businesses will be completely player run. There's not guild traders, there's not a general marketplace. You go inside the building to buy a set of armor, you're literally going to be buying from a player. A player actually owns that business. That is so cool, and it really, really gives me Sword Art Online vibes. Little off topic, and I know you didn't ask for it, but if you're a nerd like me and you like anime and you haven't seen Sword Art Online, I highly, highly, highly recommend it. It's a show about an MMO. But that's all I'm going to say about that. I don't want to give any spoilers away. If you've seen it before, like, tell me in the comments so we can nerd out a little bit. But let's get back to Mirandus. So, building and business ownership aside, that death mechanic is also going to be super unique. When you die inside of Mirandus, you're going to lose not only experience points, but also mastery points. In the mastery system, I've seen it in a couple other games, but actually losing points in your masteries when you die is going to be a big deal. So when you see a high level character or a player, you know that they're good. You know that they haven't died in a long time, or they've got fat pockets because they can just pay Materium to res themselves, which is going to make doing the in-game content much, much more difficult. So when you're fighting those big in-game bosses, those one-of-one bosses that are also a unique characteristic of MMOs, I don't think that's been done, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think there's any other MMOs that there's one-of-one bosses. But when you're fighting them, it's only going to be the people who are really good at the game, and not just the people who have sank like a ton of hours into the game. You need to actually be skilled at Mirandus, which is again why I say I don't think it'll be passive. So now let's talk about the third misconception for Mirandus, and that's the idea of being able to place a building anywhere inside the game that you want, which sadly isn't true. Including tents. You still need a deed to place any building inside of the game on top of. So if I own an archery shop, for instance, I can't just go somewhere in the woods and place that down. It needs to be placed on top of a deed, and deeds only have a certain number of spots. Now, just because you don't own a deed doesn't mean that you won't be able to place your building. What you'll have to do is you'll have to find someone who owns a deed and work out some sort of system with them to either pay them a flat rate or a percentage of your income or something like that, and they'll allow you to place your building on their deed. Now, this is my own personal speculation, and this isn't going to be true 100% of the time, but for me personally, I really would be skeptical of buying a building and not a deed, because it seems like, again, and this isn't financial advice, but it seems like a lot of the deed owners will have most of the buildings for their deed. Now, I have talked to a couple deed owners that are open, for instance, and they don't have the buildings to fill their deed, but a lot of deed owners will probably have the money to buy the buildings. So just think, that's something to think about when buying only a building. Just a second ago, I mentioned something about tents, and this is actually going to lead us into our fourth misconception of the day, and that is that tents and taverns are similar, because tents, inns, and camps are all the same thing, just different sizes. They are completely different from a tavern. So the description of a tavern on OpenSea, I think it was really, that was the biggest misconception, because it talked about a place for an adventurer to get rest. And you will not, I repeat, you will not be able to sleep in a tavern. And I did confirm this with a couple people, because I thought I remembered Mirandus Master talking about this. But yeah, you will not be able to sleep inside of a tavern. A tavern is going to be, I think of it as the in-game Discord chat, like toxicity, hopefully aside. But I look at it as a place for adventurers to go and have fun and talk to people, maybe drink some mead and just relax after an adventure. Whereas a tent, inn, or camp are going to be the place for adventurers to actually sleep and improve their sleep stat. Now let's get to the fifth and final misconception of the video, and that's that you will need a building in order to sell any goods. And this is not true. There's a couple different ways that you'll be able to sell items without actually owning a building or a shop. So first of all, let's say in this scenario, you're an adventurer, you just went out and you found a couple really cool rare swords, and you want to sell them, but you don't have a shop to put them on display at. So the first option would be to take it back into the nearest town and sell it to a shop. The issue with this scenario is that you're probably not going to get full price for it, because if the shop that's buying it is going to need to also sell it. So they're going to buy it from you for partial price so that they can resell it and they can make profit. Now my second idea, and this is something that I talked to Michael McCarthy about, is zone selling. So in Elder Scrolls Online, which is an MMO that I play quite a bit of, you can zone sell items, and that means, and sometimes it's very annoying, but other times it's pretty helpful. You can actually post an item in your inventory in the zone chat, and by doing so, people can see that you have that item, and if they want it, then they can post something in the zone chat or DM you or something like that. But that'll pretty well alleviate the pain for paying for a building and or deed, or paying rent to put your building there. You can zone sell, or you can sell to someone who owns a building. But those are the 5 most common misconceptions that I've kind of gathered from the Discord chat, from people asking questions, but also from seeing things on YouTube myself. If you've watched this far into the video, I really appreciate you. Sorry if my energy's kind of gotten a little lower. It's like 1 a.m. and I am exhausted. But I appreciate you guys watching so much. It means a lot to me. I put a lot of time into these videos. So if you got something from it, or if you enjoyed it, had fun, then hit the like button. I would seriously appreciate it a ton. And I will see you guys in the next one. And this is HammerHammond23 signing out. Peace, guys.